From a career spanning decades to touching down in our hearts, Zenobia Shroff brings warmth, heart, and humor to all her roles in The Big Sick, Miss Marvel, and many more. Representation, but make it wholly dimensional. Tough love, but make it funny. The first South Asian mama in the MCU, Zenobia Shroff, thank you so much and welcome to the For Your Reference podcast.
Thank you. Thank
Welcome.
you guys for having me. And thank you for waking up so early in Australia to do this.
Anytime for you.
So we would love to know what made you fall in love with acting and stay in it.
Uh, am I in love with acting?
Are you? 30 years, you tell me otherwise.
That's some long suffering.
Yeah.
I don't know. I read this amazing quote by Mr. Spielberg recently. I do believe it was, and please forgive me if I'm misquoting him. But he said that the process is not that great, but the calling is undeniable. And that's how I feel. I'm not particularly fond of the process always. It's we work long hours and you're in uncomfortable situations, costumes, hair, makeup, 4:30 a.m. calls. You're traveling a lot, especially on the road. It's hard to stay healthy, all of that. But the calling is the calling is the calling. And when I am between action and cut, I think, okay, maybe I was put on this earth to give that to people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, going back to what made me fall in love was I grew up in post-colonial India in the 70s and 80s. And at the age of 17, I went to the Sterling Cinema, as we called it, or was the cinema. And I saw Meryl Streep in French Lieutenant's Woman, or Lieutenant's Woman, as your wishes. And I just remember she did 2 roles in that. She was playing a person who was, and I remember sitting there and thinking, yeah, I think I can do that. I want to do that. And it was a seminal turning point moment for me. Yeah.
Wow.
But I can't always say that I'm madly in love with it all. Last night I watched, for example, Banshees of Inisherin, which was beautiful. And I remember watching Colin Farrell, and I thought, we've never seen Colin do something like this. And he was so good, and he touched me so. And those are the moments when you see the great performances, I fall back in love with it, for sure.
If you haven't had a chance to watch The Lobster, he's also a very earnest role in that as well. But that's beautiful. Yeah, to see Meryl Streep and be like, I can do that.
I can do that because I've been doing it since I was a young girl in amateur theater. My parents met in a local theater. They never took it up as a profession because they had to raise 3 girls. But I was always, the lead in the school plays. And yeah, I was always a quick study around that stuff. Though that's not if you're not asking that and I'm just rambling on, but I was meant to be a therapist.
Oh, so you can send us an invoice and we can pay you after this.
I did my master's in psychology. Hey, don't miss my Miss Marvel coffee mug.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
I did my master's in psychology, and it was either do the training program to be a therapist or use a ticket I had got as a dancer. I was also a dancer to come to New York City and study my craft. And my mentor and acting teacher said, you're not going to waste this ticket. You're going to use it and you're going to go. And so I packed my bags, and I had $500 in 2 suitcases, and that's been 33 years.
Wow. Was there a moment where you thought, oh, I have my master's degree in my bag. If this doesn't pan out, could I always go back?
I never had a plan B. I'm going to be really honest. Say that having a master's degree opened the doors to having some decent day jobs because, I had an education. And I was suited. I worked in a place for people with mental illness, and I did a lot of. I was always going to, if I did was a therapist, I was always going to look at childhood influences, and I translated that into babysitting and nannying and all of that. But when I look back on it, I think like, you didn't have another plan. I can't go back, because even though this is not going so well, I didn't feel I could go back.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that's the point, right? Like, if you're going to go in, go all the way in, go for broke.
I was also very young. I was early 20s, and you think the world is your oyster, and nothing can go wrong. What do you mean? Nothing will go wrong. I'll just go to New York City and become an actor.
I love that. But I think also with, your background, your education as well, we talk thespian level performances. And I think understanding the way we function or the way we dysfunction as humans can only really help your performances anyway.
Absolutely. Everybody says, "Oh, do you regret not having your, being a therapist and what, you studied all those years?" Like, it was what, 3 and 2 years, 5 years to get the master's degree. And do you regret it? And I'm like, are you kidding? I use it every day. I use it every day, not just off camera, but it's the first place I go to when I'm with a new character, and what is acting in the end if not the exploration of the human condition in all its very myriad forms? And so when you're talking of a human being, you can't not talk about their quote unquote psychology. So I use it a lot. Yeah.
Well, we would love to talk about The Big Sick. You play Charmine. There are a lot of big themes, and we love to be able to see it on the screens that we might not necessarily have seen otherwise. Things like culture to religion to family. And we would really love to know, what's the scene that you really loved?
The last one, when she gives it, then when they have the showdown, and she lets them know what their immigrant struggle has been like. Because I think that's a scene that resonated a lot with a lot of people in this country and other immigrants. The parents go through so many sacrifices, and I don't have birth children, but I sacrificed a lot to get to this point where I'm sitting on podcasts and going to award shows. I sacrificed a tremendous amount, and I'm not saying it, in a victimized way. I know that sacrifice of that immigrant, so that I was an immigrant. I am, a New Yorker at this point, but I know that sacrifice. I know missing people's weddings and births, and I know that sacrifice, because, hey, no, I might be getting a job for a small play. And so I think that I was able to resonate with that scene. But then I also really like the scene where she turns her head away after giving the biryani in the car, right at the end. And Michael Showalter, our director, we shot it 2 ways. She looks away and she waves to him. And I think they used the one where she looked away.
Because we were like, what? Why?
And I love doing the improv with Kumail. I did love that.
We love watching Miss Marvel. How was it taking the role of Muniba? Sort of a tough love mom, but yet willing to meet Kamala halfway.
But Muniba is my 15th South Asian mother. I have made a career on playing South Asian mothers, starting in 2007 when I got my first big break. So there was no unfamiliarity with Muniba as to how, I knew this role. You play it 15 times, you know it well. And I'm not just saying a mother, I'm saying specifically South Asian mothers,
right?
Whether they are Pakistani or Muslim or Hindu or Indian, but they've all been. And there's all the immigrant mother stories have had, parallels about wanting your children to walk a straight and narrow line much more than their white counterparts. And we are, as a culture, and you might resonate with this as people of color, we're stricter with our children.
Yeah.
So we don't tolerate a lot of guff. We don't say thank you for going to potty, you know. So
Love is through actions, you know. It's not physically saying I love you.
Yeah.
so handling it that way, I came to it with really knowing it. But then Muniba on the page was just this woman who was saying things like, Kamala, you know, come for dinner. Kamala, you're late to school. Kamala, you're late for your driving test. Kamala, go to your room. Kamala, you can't go out. And then that's your job to elevate that, to make it something more. And also for me personally, I'm always aware that there are 15 other women that people can look at and say, oh, she did this one. How do I distinguish Muniba Khan from Sharmeen, from, you know, Priya Ullah from The Affair? How do I have to make that distinction for myself so that I'm happy with the work I'm doing. So then you take what's given on the page and you try and elevate it. And I think, I just think the family dynamic, I don't know if you agree, worked very beautifully between the four of us. And it
absolutely.
sort of became this thing. And Iman and I have wonderful chemistry in the scenes. And the more we worked together, the more that chemistry came out. And that's, so I just tried to take each script and really, you know, elevate what was given. And I was given some good, rich storyline. Yeah.
Yeah, and even on that, a lot of the dialogue, you know, was really great. It gave us an insight into Maniba, not just as a mother, but as someone that lived a whole life before having Kamala. There's a lot of lines that, yeah, there's a couple of lines I want to, you know, throw out there. Talk about, and, you know, being raised by a black mother, by a brown mother. There's definitely experience that we had. There's a line in particular where you're talking, or when your character is talking to Kamala, who do you want to be? Do you want to be a good person that we raised you to be, or a head in the clouds sort of person? Then, just very quickly, there's another line, and again, this is Maniba as a wholly realized character. I've never felt so alone, but I found my family and let them love me. Ooh, you say psychology? Wow.
That scene, Who Do You Want to Be,
Yeah.
is at the end of episode 1 when Kamala escapes to Comic Con and then comes back. And that was a rewrite. And I think turned out to be the strongest scene in the episode.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, it was a brilliant way for our creators to end that episode. I love that scene. I love that scene because you know, that's where you say you try and elevate it. So I'm not just the woman making the biryani and setting the table. I am a fully realized person who's made sacrifices, come from Pakistan to give you a good life. So yeah, I'm going to question you, young girl. Who do you want to be? And that was the most powerful, because that's a lot of immigrant parents are like, what do you want to do? Who do you want to be? And it was amazing. And also the second one that you referenced, what was it? That line was, tell me that line again.
I never felt so alone.
Yeah. That was a beautiful scene in the bathroom. Where she says, that scene came very naturally to me. Is the dialogue starts with America was my mountaintop. And for me, for Zenobia, America was my mountaintop.
Yeah.
I was 24 years old. I had no money except for the $500 I had come with and my 3 months tuition that had been paid for at the Circle in the Square school. And I had not a single contact. All I had was some crazy idea in my head that I could do this. And then that voice, you know, that always speaks to us, isn't it? That says, there's a bigger life for you than South Bombay. You got to do this.
Right.
And that voice has never left me. But America was my mountain. I had no money for a long time. I struggled. I had health problems. I had financial problems. this is all much more than you ever wanted to know, right? At this
When are we gonna get the Zenobia Shroff biopic? That's what I want to know.
The Zenobia Shroff biopic has happened in the form of a one-woman show. If you Google me, you'll see it. I did 30 characters in 80 minutes. And my partner and I wrote it. It started as a monologue, which I used to do as a stand-up monologue, and then became a full-fledged one-woman show called How to Succeed as an Ethnically Ambiguous Actor. Because everybody was like, "Where are you from? You can't be Indian. You're so fair. You do not talk this way. You cannot possibly be Indian. Are you Italian? Are you this? Are you that?" So, it became the story of my life unto that point. And we took it all the way to an off-Broadway run. So, and I would love to do more with it. I think it's got very good episodic potential. But going back to your question, that scene was very important. And also that scene came very easily to me, because if you're going to be a method actor, which I guess I am a little bit, I had a lot to draw on, because America was my mountain.
A lot of your performances in Miss Marvel was a healing balm. I think a lot of us didn't know whether we would feel that sort of healing, but we would love to wrap up.
We've spoken about representation, diversity, and inclusion. We've seen it shift throughout the years to a point where in Miss Marvel, we get to see a wholly realized character in Muniba. Back in the day, we'd get a one-dimensional character, with little or no growth. How do you feel it being in the industry? Have you seen it change, and how you've been part of it, experiencing it firsthand?
Don't wrap up right yet, because that's a big question. So talking of America being my mountain, and 30 years ago when I came to this country, I was told, like I referenced before, to change my name because I had white passing, a horrible term, but used.
Yeah.
And to get dialect lessons, learn to talk like American, and you just learn to talk like American and you're going to be fine. We can pass you off for Italian, we can pass you off for Greek, we can pass you off for Spanish, but you really don't want to be saying you're Zenobia Shroff from Bombay, India.
Like, don't make it hard on yourself, make it easier for yourself, sort of thing.
Make it easier for yourself and make it easier for us to sell you as agents and managers. And also because there was nothing, zero, nada going on at that time for South Asians. And yet your instinct as a young woman too was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not becoming someone else. And I didn't get hired a lot because nobody knew what to do with me. Nobody knew what to do with me. It's the line that Nakia says in Miss Marvel. She's like, I'm paraphrasing, like, I was too white to be Indian and I was too Indian to be white. Nobody knew what to do with me. And so 20 years ago, it started changing a little bit. 10 years ago, we started getting definitely some momentum. And so for the young kids on the show, it's a different experience. But for me, the weight of my history is very squarely on my shoulders when I signed that contract, that the day has come when Marvel and Kevin Feige have taken a chance on showing the origin story of a Muslim American kid from New Jersey. I never thought the day would come, and it's very emotional for me because I am one of the people in this city, along with many other women and men in their 40s and 50s, who built the damn brown table. We built it leg by leg, plank by plank, so that kids like Iman and Maitreya Ramakrishnan and others can take a seat. But we built the table. And so the weight of my history is not lost on me when, I see it. And it blows my mind in a good way.
But even to be able to offer kindness and warmth and not be bitter about the whole experience, because people of your sort of stature would definitely, be weighed down by it. And even, I'm a Pacific Islander, but just seeing, a Pakistani Muslim family, tears, Zenobia. I was like crying throughout this show.
Absolute
It's so
tears.
real.
Yeah. Amount of young women and their mothers who wrote to me during that period when they were dropping the episodes in June and July and saying, can you be my Ammi? You're just like my Ammi. My Ammi says hello. My Ammi says she talks to me exactly like you talk to Kamala. My Ammi says she's never seen you on the screen in her whole life in America.
Yeah.
And that's when art can move the needle. We can shift the needle. We're doing more than just entertaining you. We are trying to shift the culture here. And our show, I'm very proud, is a watershed moment in American TV.
Well, there's literally nothing else to say. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for your time, Zenobia. Is there anything you want to plug? Anything you're working on? Unless it's hush hush and we're not supposed to know.
It's always hush hush, I just would like that, the Marvel actors also get hopefully recognized for the fact that we're not just like swinging from chandeliers. We're bringing craft to our scenes, and it would be nice that if the industry recognized that. I'm bringing 35 years of experience to my craft. To the set, and it's time to see us as actors and not just doing tricks or stunts or whatever.
Well, let's shake things up. The brown table, the black table, every other table.
Exactly. Coming up, that in July 2023, this year, the Marvels, or Captain Marvel 2, as it was originally called, with Brie and Iman and Tiana Paris, and the Khan family is in that as well.
Well, thank you so much. It's been such an honor to be able to speak with you today. Thank you so much. We'll be cheering you on from the sidelines.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye. Bye.